First, some background. I lived in Alamogordo, New Mexico for 16 years. And before I left, I got so much attention from the police there that I had to get a restraining order against the police department, which is rarely given. So I moved to Pueblo, Colorado, and then I see the same things happening with the Pueblo police. By the way, I've never been arrested or charged with anything. But I see the same things happening with the Pueblo police that I saw with the Alamogordo police. So after living in Pueblo for about 6 months, I wrote the police department here. Specifically to Detective Eric Bravo at the Pueblo Police Department, Pueblo, Colorado, from Tim Domenico. Date, Thursday, February 10th, 2011. Regards, Channel of Communication. I lived in Alamogordo, New Mexico for 16 years. I got so much attention from the police there that I actually had to file a restraining order against the police department in order to protect myself and my house guests from illegal police action. I moved to Pueblo 6 months ago, and I have started to do the same things here that I had done in Alamogordo, things that drove the police department there absolutely crazy in frustration. In Alamogordo, on a regular basis, a neighbor would tell me, "That cop was here again, looking at your house with binoculars." I'm starting to see these things happening again, right here, right now, in Pueblo. What was I doing? Nothing more than having more fun than any adult should be entitled to do without going to jail. But I wasn't breaking any law or hurting anyone. I had a party house. Actually, I owned more than one. I owned a mobile home park. Houses where young, beautiful women came night after night to party or to spend the night there because their boyfriends' husbands were being abusive. And these people knew that I was the one person that would absolutely protect them and their children from any harm whatsoever. At that time, I was 49 and my fiancée was 19, a girl I met when she was 7 years old. Oh, the cops hated that and hated much, much more about me. This is why I got the police department's attention. 18, 19, 20, 22, endless. Old, beautiful girls were always coming in and out of my house on a continuous basis. The cops probably asked, why would all these young, beautiful women be going to this 50-something guy's house? Why? Drugs? Prostitution? What? The cops in Alamogordo just couldn't figure it out. I had a 15-year-old model, Andrea, that I worked with for many years, always with her mother's permission, to come and be photographed by me. We traveled extensively in my airplane to many locales for these photographs. By the time this model was 18, this included nude photography. I believe that you and I can agree that there is a difference between nude and pornographic. Not that I haven't been involved in pornography, but I'll save that story until the day we perhaps someday meet. Detective Bravo. When I published this young lady's pictures on the internet, she started receiving modeling jobs from as far away as Europe. I have photographed several dozen of men and women in the nude, and nearly every single one of my models showed their mother the pictures before they showed them to anyone else. Why? That's how good my nude photography is. I've always loved the fact that they show their mothers first because my photographs are beautiful, respectful, and just simply kick tail, and they want to communicate to their mom, "Hey, Mom, look what you did." I've never taken an image that has violated any law, anywhere, anytime. What would be the point? Working with young models, you have absolutely no idea of how many 14, 15, and 16-year-old girls have told me, "You know, Tim, someday you and I are going to have sex." My response is always the same. Maybe on your 18th birthday. But somehow all these girls have always found something better to do on their 18th birthday than to knock on my door, and they just don't seem to show up that day. Will wonders never cease? The point of this communication is that if your department wants to search my house for anything that could be considered illegal, just knock. Your department doesn't need the embarrassment of conspiring with a convicted felon, once again in jail on felony charges, to create a fictitious affidavit in order to secure a search warrant, like the Alamogordo Police Department did in order to search my property. Just what happened to me one day in Alamogordo to make me take the time to create this communication to you? Well, it was a normal day for me. I was standing on the porch tightening the laces on my tennis shoes to start a run, something I've done 3 days a week since I was 17 years old. I've logged well over 50,000 miles in more than 30 years, and some more running. 11 Alamogordo police cars zoomed into my driveway. I did have a big driveway. I owned a mobile home park. 2 cops jumped out of each car, 22 in total, all carrying assault rifles, except for the cop that was leading the raid. He walked up to me and held a pistol to my chest, just inches away from and pointed directly at my heart. which I considered as a threat to assassinate me. I talked to both the FBI and the local DEA to have this policeman prosecuted for assault, because in New Mexico, just threatening violence constitutes assault. My response: I think you guys have the wrong address. No, we don't, Mr. Domenico. We have a search warrant. I was then cuffed with my hands behind me for officer protection, which I later read in the report, and I had to turn around and around in order to turn the pages of the search warrant to read the 9 pages that I was presented with. The search warrant was absolutely ridiculous. It entitled the police to search my entire property, more than 2 acres and 12 different homes, for so many categories of stuff that the only thing missing was dead bodies in my garden. To this day, I can't believe a judge signed the warrant. It was that far beyond anything that could ever be happening in one place at one time on planet Earth. After nearly 9 hours of 8 policemen and women searching my house, they actually had to back a pickup truck up to my front door in order to load all the things they confiscated. Dozens of loose hard disks, 12 computers, and hundreds of CDs, sex toys, women's underwear, and also more categories of items than I could ever recall. I was never charged with a single crime because I know the law and I hadn't broken it. This event likely caused the detective, the Alamogordo Police, his entire career. The department spent as much as $250,000 running DNA tests on all the sex toys to try to match them to the children in my life, which is many, many, since all the single moms I spent time with left their children alone with me on nearly a daily basis. For months after this event, my friends and family would tell me that the police had called them in or interrogated them during an arrest about what they knew about I was doing in my home that could be illegal. During one of these contacts, I received one of the highest compliments I've ever received in my lifetime. One of my oldest models told the detective leading the investigation, "My baby girl and myself spend time at Tim's house because when we are there, we know that we are safe and protected. There's absolutely nobody that can harm us when we're there. His home is beautiful, and he makes both of us feel beautiful. His house is like a museum. It's filled with beautiful statues, marble floors, plants, jungle trees, huge mirrors, giant posters of beautiful women, and there's more posters of me than any other of Tim's models. Thank you, Colleen. I really don't want to go through this drama again, Detective Bravo. With your consent, I would like to create a letter of understanding between myself and the Pueblo Police Department, entitling your department to come knock on my door and search my house anytime your department deems it appropriate in the interest of public safety, even if I'm not there and a house guest answers the door. This is not the first time I have written such a letter. During the early 1990s, I was printing, publishing, and selling legal forms with instructions how to use them to the residents of New Mexico. This was in direct violation of a New Mexico law that said it was illegal to help somebody with the court system unless you were a licensed attorney. I contacted the single investigator for the local DA's office in Alamogordo and asked him if he thought I was breaking the law. The next day he called me back to thank me for contacting him, since the presiding judge in that judicial practice had already seen my newspaper ads and cable television commercials I was running, and this judge asked him to investigate what I was doing. Days later, he called me back to advise me that in his opinion I was violating the statute. I invited him to prosecute me because I believed that all I was doing was practicing perhaps my most important constitutional right, freedom of speech. There was a single day when I was living in Alamogordo, New Mexico, that I woke up to the reality that I was being invested by the local DA, the State Bar Association, and the Federal Bankruptcy Court for helping people type bankruptcy forms, for doing nothing more than trying to help people. This is my life, then and now. I can promise you it is not always a nice place to wake up to, but I have absolutely no reason to stop doing what I do every single day. The sun dares to rise on the horizon east of Pueblo, Colorado. Sincerely, Tim Domenico.